class today. Let me introduce a bit regarding Dr. Jamilah. Assistant Professor Dr. Jamilah Hanum Abdul Khaiyom. She holds a PhD, Doctor of Philosophy in Psychological Medicine from University Putra, Malaysia, and a Master in Clinical Psychology from University Kebangsaan Malaysia, UKM, with expertise in clinical psychology, cognitive behavior therapy, CBT, relaxation training, stress management, and treatment anxiety disorder and depression. She is well versed in both therapeutic practice and mental health management. Her research interests include meta-analysis and systematic review. The application of trend this connection trend this difficult for me to spell this letter. Okay, BTC and mental disorder. The use of CBT in managing chronic illness and non-communicable disorder, premenstrual syndrome, and premenstrual depotric disorder, as well as test adapting and validation. And today, she will share with us the topic regarding the clinical psychology, mental health, psychological disorders issue. Without further ado, فليتفضل مأجورة doctor. You have 45 minutes, and let's give 5 minutes to have a Q&A, doctor.
Inshallah. Thank you very much, Sister Dr. Jaria. Let me share my screen. Okay, can I check that you are able to see my screen now, Sister Jaria?
Yes. Can you move it to another slide?
Okay.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Now?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good day to everyone. It is an honor to be here with all of you. And I plan, inshallah, to present a topic that I believe is deeply relevant in today's world. The concept of normal and abnormal is very central in abnormal and clinical psychology. When we talk about abnormal and clinical psychology, this discipline or area of knowledge covers mostly about mental health issues and mental disorders. Yeah. And these concepts of normal and abnormal are discussed extensively in the psychology textbooks that we normally use today. And these psychology textbooks are predominantly stem from a Western-centric orientation. And these modern psychology textbooks often reflect secular, empirical perspectives that prioritize observable behavior, cognitive patterns, and measurable outcomes. And today's presentation, I hope we will challenge some of these assumptions and inshallah expand our understanding and explore how Islam views the notions of normal and abnormal. Okay, inshallah. So now let's start with a simple reflection. As you can see on the slide, what is normal today may not be normal tomorrow. This statement reflects how societal norms evolve over time. For instance, in the 1950s, smoking was very popular and seen as sophisticated, glamorous, and even healthy. And this perception was shaped by the culture at that time, the culture norms. and also at the same time aggressive marketing during 1950s. But today, smoking is recognized in many countries in the world as a major health hazard, with strict regulations and anti-smoking campaigns even able to make smokers feel at times discriminated against. This shift raises an important question to all of us today. If societal norms are this fluid, can they truly be a reliable standard for defining normalcy? So I would like to invite you to learn about normal in the Islamic tradition. In the Islamic tradition, the concept of normal is deeply rooted in fitrah, the primordial nature that Allah instilled in humanity when He breathed His spirit into man. Fitrah represents an innate standard of spiritual awareness and perfection, a state of being in harmony with God and the universe. However, as societies have evolved, there has been a significant deviation from fitrah. Modern societies, driven by materialism, secularism, and scienticism, we are the modern societies, have lost our connection to this divine nature. This has led to a loss of transcendence, resulting in spiritual imbalance and also disorder. In Islam, true normalcy is found in focusing on the center, which represents the inner spiritual alignment with God, rather than being distracted by the peripheral. Okay, what is this peripheral? Peripheral here refers to the external influences of society, such as wealth, power, worldly status. But unfortunately, modernity often pulls us away from the center and replacing divine norms with a new normal. And this new normal, shaped by materialistic and secular ideals, and it estranges us from our fitrah and creates disharmony both within ourselves and in our interactions with the world. So Islam teaches that the true aspiration for human beings is perfection. And this perfection means being spiritually awake, self-aware, and deeply connected to Allah. While this state of being is rare in these modern times, it remains the ideal that all of us strive for. A return to our fitrah and a life centered on divine harmony. So now, let's take a closer look at how psychology, modern psychology now, understand the concept of normal. Let's start to dive in the history a bit. So historically, its roots go back to ancient Greek philosophy, which introduced a tripartite view of man. And this tripartite view of man divide man into the spirit, or we call it pneuma, P-N-E-U-M-A, pneuma, or the psyche, or mind, and the soma, or body. This framework, the tripartite view of man, acknowledge the interplay of physical, mental, and spiritual dimensions. However, as psychology evolved, there was a significant shift. Modern psychology narrowed its focus to what we might call the psychophysical self. And this perspective while useful for understanding behavior and mental processes, unfortunately neglected the transcendent or the spiritual dimensions of human existence. This brings us to the idea of the fragmented self. So, unlike traditional psychologies, which saw the soul as unified, now the modern psychology, yeah, including me, who is a clinical psychologist now, we have been trained from this Western perspective very much. We often portrays the self as disjointed and lacking coherence. It's almost as if we have lost sight of the deeper connections that give our inner world unity. Then comes the reductionist approach. Over time, psychology has reduced the soul to the psyche only. And then from soul to psyche, now psyche to mere neurochemical processes. Because now people talking a lot about neurocognitive sciences. Yeah. It views thought and emotion as nothing more than the result of brain activity. As a clinical psychologist, I've seen a lot of paper that talk about mental disorders such as depression. This is a result of inactive brain activity, for example. And because of this framework, the reductionist approach framework, it stripping away the richness of spiritual and existential meaning. And now finally, let's talk about the secular framework. With the rise of modern science, the spiritual aspects of humanity have been systematically excluded. This has led to a diminished conception of what it means to be human. Instead of we see ourselves as beings with a spiritual core, modern psychology often confines its understanding to the tangible and measurable aspects of existence alone. So this shift, this evolution raise an important question. If we lose sight of the spiritual and transcendent dimensions of the self, can we truly understand what it means to be normal? Or even, can we truly understand what it means to be human? So I would like to take this opportunity to engage with you online. I would like to ask you, what comes to your mind when you see or hear the word abnormal? We've learned a bit about normal, and now we would like to learn a bit more about what is abnormal. But before that, maybe I can share with you this class point tool. And I would like to invite you, if you have your smartphone with you, yeah, or any relevant gadget, maybe you can scan the QR code uh, in front of in front of you. You can scan the QR code on the screen and answer the question. What comes to your mind when you see the word abnormal or when you hear the word abnormal? So let's give some time for everyone uh, to scan the code. I still give a bit more time, probably about 1 minute, to other people to also share your thoughts. So for those who have just joined us, you may want to scan the QR code and answer the question, what comes to your mind when you hear or see the word abnormal? So let's give another about 20 seconds, then I'm going to close the close submission, and we'll see some of what you have in your mind when you hear or see the word abnormal. All right. So thank you so much to at least 10 people who may have responded, yeah, or maybe lower than that. And some people mentioned that when they see or hear abnormal, or how they define abnormal, is they look different. Someone or something that look different from ourselves. Neurodiverse or neurodivergent, again, may be considered abnormal or atypical. Unique, so unique is a very, I think, positive or neutral term that we use here. Intrigue, again, another interesting neutral or positive terms. Away from normal. So abnormal means away from normal or out of ordinary. Deviate from the norms. Pelik means strange, yeah, or awkward. Unacceptable by normal society. Again, this is another examples of how we define normal and abnormal. Blessings. So this is also very positive in nature. Being abnormal mean a bless for us. Different opinion may also be connoted as abnormality to some of us, and exceptional. So being exceptional is also considered atypical or abnormal. So I would like to thank all of you who have responded and joined the conversation today. So I would like to give you an award for your participation. Thank you so much. Yeah. So let's move forward. So let's learn about abnormal in psychology. So the narrowing of focus of psychology, the one that I have explained and elaborated to you about reductionist approach, the secular framework, yeah. So this has become psychology narrow, and it influenced the way psychologists and also psychiatrists define abnormality today. And basically, the way abnormality is defined at the moment focus primarily on what we can observe. So this is the definition at the moment. And the American Psychiatric Association, APA, yeah, the standard that many psychologists, psychiatrists, mental health professionals refer to, define abnormal behavior as a mental illness that affects the brain and influences how a person thinks, behave, and interacts with others. So this is the definition that we normally find in many psychology textbooks. And to identify abnormal behavior, psychologists use three main criteria. Okay, let's go through each one of them. First, the criteria is deviance. Okay, deviance. This is when a behavior significantly deviates from what is typical or culturally acceptable. Some of you also have shared this term or this characteristic. Yeah. For example, imagine someone who wear a heavy winter coat on a hot summer day in Malaysia. So that would be considered deviant because it's unusual and outside of our societal cultural norms in Malaysia. However, not all unusual behaviors are abnormal. Think of someone who runs a marathon every weekend. So can we say that action or behavior abnormal? Well, that may be uncommon for many. It doesn't make it abnormal. Second, second characteristic is maladaptiveness. Yeah, maladaptiveness. This refers to behaviors that interfere with a person's ability to live their daily life. For example, imagine someone who refused to leave their house because they believe stepping outside will bring back bad luck. And this behavior not only prevents us or them from functioning normally, like going to work or meeting friends, but it also causes unnecessary stress and isolation. And the third criteria is personal distress. This is when a behavior causes long-term emotional suffering for the person. For example, imagine someone who constantly worries that they have upset their friends, even when there is no real evidence of it. They might feel intense guilt or anxiety, even though no one else notices their struggle. This kind of inner turmoil is what we mean by personal distress. So here's the key takeaway from this definition of abnormality in psychology. So only one of these criteria, either deviance, maladaptiveness, or personal distress, needs to be present for a behavior to be labeled abnormal. But normally, we find two or all three overlapping with each other when we consult people with mental disorders, for example. So I also would like to share with you about culture, context, and its relationship with the definition of abnormal behavior. In modern psychology, cultural norms is the central to what we consider normal or abnormal. And these norms guide how people behave and define what is healthy or unhealthy. But then norms are not static. Norms evolve over time. For example, the earlier example that I've shared with you, smoking. Smoking was once considered a healthy and sophisticated habit in 1950s. But today, it's widely recognized as harmful. And this shows how our understanding of normal can shift as society changes. But cultural norms can also be mistaken. They can limit, they can oppress or marginalize certain groups. For example, in the early 20th century, women who fought for voting rights were labeled as mentally ill simply because they challenge societal expressions or societal expectations. This demonstrates how behaviors that push against the status quo sometimes unfairly categorized as abnormal. And it's also important to remember that behaviors considered abnormal in one culture may be perfectly acceptable or even encouraged in another. Many of the diagnostic categories in psychology, when I talk about mental disorder, we have diagnostic category in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorder, or shortly recognized as DSM. Yeah, this is the book that being frequently referred by psychiatrists, clinical psychologists, mental health counselor, or mental health professionals. And many of these diagnostic categories in psychology are rooted in Western perspective, and applying them to other culture without considering our unique context can lead to misunderstanding and even harm. So as we think about what it means to be normal or abnormal, we must consider how deeply culture influences these definitions. So most importantly, we need to ask whether our current framework truly capture the full complexity of human behavior. So I would like to invite you to have a look at one sample of disorder in DSM. As we have discussed culture previously, we also discussed context and norms, which play a significant role in shaping how we define what is normal and abnormal. These factors influence not only individual perceptions, but also the framework used in modern psychology, like the DSM, Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorder. And a clear example of this is the evolution of how gender identity is understood in this DSM. In DSM-4, published in 1994, when I started my clinical psychology training, I was trained in DSM-4. I'm not that old to be trained in DSM-3. Yeah. So DSM-4, published in 1994, it has gender identity disorder, or GID. And this GID was included as a diagnosable condition. So it is a mental disorder in DSM-4, yeah, gender identity disorder. At that time, it was seen as a deviation from traditional gender norms. So we label non-conformity as abnormal. However, by the time DSM-5 was published in 2013, by now, 2024, we already have DSM-5 TR, or DSM-5 text revision, yeah? So when it was published, when DSM-5 was published in 2013, about 20 years from DSM-4 was published, this category, gender identity disorder, was removed and replaced with gender dysphoria. So this change reflects a shift in focus. Instead of viewing someone's identity as inherently disorder or deviant, DSM-5 focuses on the emotional distress that these people may have from the mismatch between their experience and the assigned gender. So the identity is not a disorder anymore, but because of the mistreatment that they have in society, they feel distress. And these need to be treated according to the DSM-5. They don't have any issue if they think that they are trapped in different gender while their sex is actually men or women. So this shift also reframes the criteria of abnormal. The emphasis moved away from deviance to addressing maladaptiveness, how these experiences impact functioning of the individual, and also personal distress, like emotional pain or social isolation that people with gender dysphoria have. So what this example highlights is how cultural norms and societal perspectives evolve. It influences the way psychology defines and classifies abnormality. It reminds us that these definitions are not fixed truth, but are deeply shaped by the culture and historical moment we are in. So this is the take of modern psychologists, especially the one who involved in mental health area. So how to return to the normal? Let's take a moment to connect what we have discussed so far about abnormality and how we can understand the process of returning to normal. So in modern psychology, abnormality is often defined by deviance, maladaptiveness, and personal distress. These are the three criteria of abnormality. It focuses on outward behaviors and measurable experiences. And these definitions, while helpful in some ways, but very deeply shaped by cultural norms and our societal values. But from the Islamic perspective, abnormality goes deeper. It's about being disconnected from our fitrah, the primordial state of harmony and alignment with Allah. So how do we return to the normal as defined by Islam? This process involves realigning the self, bringing the lower self or nafs into harmony with the higher spirit. It's not just about changing outward behaviors, but transforming the inner self to reflect spiritual balance and divine connection. So Islamic philosophy provides a profound guidance here. For instance, Ibn Sina described the soul in a hierarchy: the vegetative, the animal, the rational elements, and each part has its role, but the rational soul must transcend the lower instincts and guide the self towards intellectual and spiritual perfection. So this ascent in a journey of growth and also transcendence, aiming for a higher state of being. We have another approach, the Sufi approach. It offers another perspective, focusing on the purification of the nafs, tazkiyatun nafs. Many people read Al-Ghazali, and this Sufi approach focus on tazkiyatun nafs through spiritual struggle or the greater jihad. This process involves moving the soul from the state of forgetfulness and the ego-driven desire to self-awareness and peace with God. This ultimate goal is to achieve a state of nafsul mutma'innah, where the self is tranquil and in harmony with its divine origin. Al-Ghazali adds another layer by emphasizing the importance of balance. He explains that within us, there are opposing tendencies: passion, anger, intellect, and we need to carefully manage all these opposing tendencies. And according to Al-Ghazali, when these forces are balanced, we achieve inner equilibrium. This reflects outwardly as justice and moral excellence. So finally, both philosophical and mystical tradition in Islam describe this journey as a vertical ascent, moving from the physical and worldly to the spiritual and divine. This is not a one-time effort, but of course a continuous process of realigning ourselves with our fitrah and striving for perfection in our relationship with God. So in essence, returning to the normal in Islam is about restoring the soul's balance, nurturing spiritual awareness, reconnecting with our divine essence. And this is a holistic journey of transformation that goes beyond fixing what is broken in our mental health issues to becoming what we were always meant to be. In this case, human. So that is actually what I plan to share with all of you today. Before I end my sharing session, I would like to learn from you. What is your takeaway message? Share with me your takeaway message on understanding normal and abnormal lecture today before we have question and answer. So now I would like to invite you again to scan this QR code and share with me your takeaway, what you have learned so far. So at least as someone who have shared about normal and abnormal in a very simple, and I hope that that is considered simple, would like to know what is your takeaway, would like to know what you have learned so far, so that I really hope that at least you've learned something for the past 30 minutes or 35 minutes on normal and abnormal. And I'm going to close this within 1 hour and 20 seconds from now. Sorry, not 1 hour, 1 minute and 20 seconds from now. And then we can go to question and answer session. Okay, about 30 seconds more. Let's learn from each other. What is your takeaway? What is your reflection from normal and abnormal lecture today? All right. Thank you so much who have submitted your responses. We have about 4 responses from Jan. Jan mentioned that the need to realign our understanding of normalcy from the Islamic perspective. And from uh, Abdul Karim Isabiri. Abdul Karim, I apologize if I pronounce your name incorrectly. What is normal in my society can be abnormal to someone else, correct? What is normal in Malaysia may be considered abnormal in US. Yeah, we value different things. And from Jannat, the relationship between Allah and us is imperative to nurture a healthy spiritual understanding of myself and the world. That is very beautiful, Jannah. And from Nawawi, I think this is Dr. Nawawi probably. Normal is according to our fitrah. Anything beyond that, not perfect. Anything that deviate from our fitrah is considered abnormal. Something is not right. And I remember when I was an undergraduate student at the International of Islamic University Malaysia, I met uh, almarhum Professor Malik Badri. He taught me psychology from Islamic perspective, and Professor Dr. Amber Haq was my teacher in abnormal psychology. And in one of the assignment, I conducted an interview, brief interview with Professor Almarhum Professor Malik Badri. I asked him, what does it mean by abnormal? And he briefly explained that whatever that deviate from our fitrah, that is abnormal. And that was a very, whenever that I um, uh, remember that scene, it is very heartwarming to learn from someone who have taught us so much about Islam and psychology. Thank you so much for all of you who have contributed your understanding. And now I would like to share, these are some of the references that I have used, and I would like to invite you to visit it, especially from Emeritus Professor Dr. Nuraini Muhammad Noor, and also Professor Dr. Aizuddin Ahmad. What is the normal? A commentary based on the Islamic tradition and psychology. And I also would like to promote to all of us who love psychology and also would like to know about mental health and how Islam view psychology to go and read this book by Professor Dr. Abdullah Rothman. Uh, he did a research on model of Islamic psychology and psychotherapy from the perspective of Islamic theology and contemporary understanding of psychology. He made a very nice model about man, yeah. And I would like you to visit or read this book to know further about it. And now, Sister Jaria, maybe I can take some question or probably learn from the floor about their reflections or learn from each other. Thank you so much.
Most welcome, Doctor. Now we open for Q&A, and you can see from the chat box if there is a question there, or if the participant want to have a direct question, you can raise up your hand. I think in the chat box they have, but
Okay. Okay, we have so many responses from the chat box. about what I have asked previously, the engagement using class point. Thank you so much for everyone. And I agree with you, Aisha, that not everyone is tech savvy. Thank you for sharing it here. Um, okay, I think we have one question probably by Diana Putri. I think so. I would like to ask specifically about homosexual or gender identity disorder, which was recently removed from DSM-5. I was triggered by Yuval Noah Harari, an Israeli historian scientist who does not define homosexual as a deviation because everybody is able to do it. Thus, homosexual isn't against the natural law. You already explained the definition of abnormal and why gender identity disorder wasn't included in DSM-5 anymore. But as a Muslim excluded the Islamic norm, are there any clinical explanation why people are able to be attracted to people who have the same gender as he or she is? That is a very interesting question. Gender identity disorder is not my area. My area that I research a lot. So how people are attracted to different gender, but in general, from what I have learned, any mental health issues or even mental disorders are developed and maintained from at least four perspectives. Number one is from biological causes. Yeah, it could be genetic. It could be the DNA that we have. Yeah, so that is the explanation of sometimes why some people have easily get depression or anxiety or even personality disorder. It could be because of biological reason, either the way the brain is wired differently, the way our genetic expression is different from other people. Another one is from psychology perspective, the way we think about something. If we think that it's okay to like other people with same sex or same gender, and that is okay, we adhere to that. That somehow will allow us to develop this kind of issue, make us maintain this kind of problem. The way we behave in the world, for example, if we agreeable to these tendencies in the environment, such as we don't feel anything when people talk about homosexual, we try to maintain neutrality and we condone to this understanding and framework of identity, that could also develop and maintain liking towards same sex and gender. In terms of environment, yeah, this is the third explanation. Socio-environmental perspective. If we live in an environment that see gender identity disorder as not a disorder, yeah, and when this group of people talk about their rights and etc., and we change our mind because we also believe about this human right, that again could help us to change our framework and agree or adhere to this understanding of identity is considered neutral. And another approach is spirituality, as we have explained or shared today. Things that bring us far away from our transcendent or divine nature may expose us to think and behave in a deviant way. And one of the deviant way is this thinking that liking or loving, living, marrying someone with same sex and gender is considered acceptable. So this is only a general way of explaining any mental health issues and also mental disorders on how it is developed and also maintained. And I hope that it is considered acceptable to you, Adiana. And I trust that there's a lot of reading on that as well. Um, so is so Sister Jaria, am
Yes,
I allowed to continue? Because I am aware that we may we may need to move to another speaker, right?
Yes, Doctor. Thank you very much, Doctor, for your intellect presentation and very interesting. Hopefully, all the participants can grab all that benefit from you. And inshallah, hopefully we can meet again in the next session, inshallah. And thank you very much, Doctor.
Thank you. Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, Dr. Narawi. Dr. Narawi, are you here? Dr. Nerawi Sedu. Can you unmute, Doctor? Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, sure, Doctor.
Should I on the camera?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Doctor. This is the second time, right, Doctor?
Yeah. Accidentally, not intentionally.
Yeah, Doctor. Can you try to share screen, Doctor?
Okay. Let me make sure everything is okay first. Okay.
Yeah.
Share screen, am I right? Okay, can you see my screen?
Yeah, sure, Doctor. Can you make it bigger? Full screen.
Okay, never mind. Is it clear?
Yes, Doctor. Can you move to another slide?
Okay, done with that one.
Yes. Very good, Doctor.
Thank you.
Okay, to all participants, we will continue to the communication department and we will hear from Dr. Nerawi Sedu, the topic in interpersonal communication. Without further ado, Doctor, فليتفضل مأجورا, Doctor. You have 45 minutes and 5 minutes for Q&A, Doctor.
Okay, thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good morning, everybody. I hope everybody is good. I hope everybody is doing great today. Okay. I think without further ado, I'm going to start my presentation today. Thank you very much, Mr. Jaria, for introducing me just now. Okay. The title of the focus of my lecture or my sharing is on interpersonal communication. And I strongly believe that we do interact every day. We communicate interpersonally every day, without fail, I think. And then what I'm going to do is that I'm going to provide a few definitions of interpersonal communication first, and then see correct me if I'm wrong, how can we use Tauhid framework in understanding the process of interpersonal communications? Yeah. So let's go with the first slide. Okay. There are many texts. If you go to any bookstore, there are so many different texts on understanding interpersonal communication. The reason why, because if the assumption is that if we fail to communicate interpersonally, then of course there'll be a high percentage. There is a high percentage that we will not be able to get what we want in our interactions. So in other words, we fail to deliver the internet messages to our audience. As simple as that. Yeah. So this is one of the many definition that you can find, whether online or from any hard copy books. This is from BB and Redman. Normally, students doing interpersonal communication, they use this text, but they might be using a more recent edition. This one was published in 2011. According to these three scholars, bear in mind, the scholars cited here are assume they are Christian from America. Yeah. So the notions of Tawhidic paradigm is not really in the definitions. Basically, it's more on the process rather than the spiritual aspect of that definitions. Yeah, you can see a distinct transactional form of communication involving mutual influence, usually for the purpose of managing relationship. If you refer to any text on interpersonal communication, normally there is one chapter on interpersonal relationship, and towards the end, the last few chapters will be on interpersonal. In the first few chapters will be for interpersonal communication, and then the last few chapters will be on interpersonal relationship. The reason why, because in order to develop a relationship, we must communicate interpersonally. As simple as that. Yeah. And then let's go with another one. This one is by Tranholm and Jensen, 2004, page 24. IPC, or the acronym is IPC. IPC is communication between two people, at least. That is the smallest unit, two individuals, two participants. Remember this definition was developed years before we have new media technology, for example, the social media, WhatsApp, whatever it is, or even before we had Zoom or Google Meet or whichever platform, emphasizing its dyadic, two-way interactions, spontaneous and informal nature. Yeah, that is basically some of the key components of IPC highlighted by these two scholars. Yeah, and then I'm going to proceed further. This is by Pearson and a few other scholars. Yeah, 2013. IPC is the process of using messages to generate meaning. This is one of the key components if you refer to the models of communications. Without having a proper meaning of the interactions, and of course there'll be misinterpretation, there'll be miscommunications, and normally there'll be negative repercussions. Yeah, between at least two individuals or two people in a situation, and that allows mutual opportunities for both speaking and listening. So one is a speaker, one is a listener. When I use certain speaking and listening here, that doesn't mean the listener is not doing anything. You are also as a listener, you are also giving me some kind of feedbacks. If you talk about face-to-face interactions, because normally if you talk with someone, if you notice someone behave awkwardly, then you might change the way you interact. You might want to change some of the info. You might want to get rid some of the info delivered just now. Yeah. Then of course, let's proceed further. These are the reason why, basically, whether for professional reason or just for personal reason, why we try to understand the terms interpersonal communication. Of course, the first thing is for personal life. Yeah, we learn how to communicate better. Yeah, but it's more than just understanding the theory. It's more on practicing what the principles. Yeah. Then you have personal relationship. And then, of course, the last one is professional life. As simple as when you work, if you fail to communicate with your colleagues or other staff properly, then, of course, there is a chance for you not to get what you want to have from that interactions. There might be a misunderstanding. So that is maybe in the worst case scenario, you might discontinue the relationship. Yeah, and of course, those are some of the reasons or the values of understanding interpersonal communications. Now I'm going to proceed further. These are two more kind of descriptions, more on descriptions. IPC is a continuum ranging from quite impersonal. It can be very impersonal, as simple as when you go to any supermarket, when you talk with a cashier, that is very impersonal. Sometimes I'm not even bothered to ask what's his name. That is very impersonal. We are not interested to know who is that person, but it can be very very personal as well. For example, you and your husband, you and your wife, you and your son. So that would be the range. Yeah, from trying to know someone and trying to simply, I just want to finish my business. That's it. Yeah, and then you have another one by Pearson. That was stated just now. Yeah, I'm going to skip that one. So I've shown you this one before when we had our first session. This is basically one of the many models which can be used to understand the process of communication, and this is used for all types of communication, not only for IPC, but that is also used for mass communication as well. So these are the basic components. You have source, you have encoding, you have message, and you have decoding, and then you have receiver. But of course, in a real context, both parties in one interaction are acting as source and sender at the same time, as source and receiver at the same time. Yeah, there are mean to say there is no such thing as you are the solely sender and the other party is the solely receiver. Because when you listen to someone talking, your cues, your non-verbal cues will somehow give all kind of messages to the other party just now. Yeah. So sometimes when you look at someone frowning upon after listening to your statement, then you might want to change, or you might want to retract what you have said just now. So in a normal context, we don't really see ourselves as solely a sole source or a sole receiver only. Yeah. So these are the basic components. Of course, we have feedback. Yeah, feedback can be, of course, I did mention about verbal and non-verbal before this. It can be done verbally, it can be done non-verbally as well. Yeah. So let's proceed further. So these are basically the components I mentioned just now. You have the source, or you have a source. You have a receiver. Yeah. This is consequential. But then once again, I just want to reiterate my point just now. In any context, it's going to be very, very hard for you to simply function as a source only. You can be a source, at the same time, you are also a receiver. Yeah. Then of course you have message, any ideas that you want to share with someone else. Yeah. Then channel, of course, this is what I talk about your way of delivering the message. Yeah. And then of course noise. Yeah. Can be literal or psychological. For example, literal, for example, if I talk with someone over the phone, something happened to the phone, basically that is what we call as literal noise. But then if the understanding is very much related to your understanding of the message, roughly we can call that one as psychological in nature. Yeah. And then you have encode. Encode, of course, done by a receiver, sorry, a sender or a source. Then, of course, decode or decoding is done by a receiver, yeah, or the audience in the general context. Then you have context. So you have to know the context of the interactions. Is it in the classroom, or is it in a noisy cafeteria? So this context will somehow influence the way you interact and the kind of messages that you communicate with someone yourself. Then you have feedback, yeah, and feedback normally influence the way a source delivers or communicates certain messages. So these are the basic components of human communication in general. Whether you talk about interpersonal communication, or in the biggest context, you talk about mass media communications. Yeah. Then let's proceed further. So this is the Tawhidic paradigm that I showed you before in my first in our first meeting. Yeah. So you have this. Yeah. So basically you have, of course, someone said before this. Also, what about human and animal interactions? I would say, in the context of at least in my field, because I cannot claim that I know how do people interact with the other creature other than two-leg creature, we as human beings, for example. Yeah. So basically, the model is basically, in my understanding, in the context of human to human interactions rather than human to other creatures. Yeah. So you have everything that we do basically should be in line with the principles stated in Islam, whether you retrieve the principle from the Quran or from a hadith or from the traditions of the Prophet. Yeah. And of course, we, as a Muslim, for example, we sometimes look at the stories of the Prophet, for example. Sorry, the stories of the Prophet as well as the stories of the companions of the Prophet. And they somehow indicate what are do's and the don'ts in interpersonal communications. Yeah. So this is a very simple model. You can add up if you want, because I don't really call this one as a theory because I think, you know, a theory means it has to be tested. And I personally, as a Muslim, I don't test Tawhidic framework. Yeah, that is a framework given to us to understand the world and what happens in the world. Yeah. And then of course, so this I've shown this one before, just to make sure that you know what I'm talking about. So Tawhid here refers to this, yeah, provides the principal guide. So whatever action that we perform or that we do on daily basis must be according to the principle which are in line with this particular framework. Yeah. And then of course, I'm going to proceed further. So Islamic communication is firmly rooted in the principle, as I mentioned just now, principle mentioned in the Quran and Sunnah of the Prophet, yeah, that covers the actions of the Prophet as well as the statements or any utterance or expressions of the Prophet, yeah. And then if referred to many hadiths, for example, you can find how should a Muslim in particular act should be according to the principle stated in that particular sources, yeah. And then of course these are some of the key I would say key components or principles that we have to that we have to know as a communicator, yeah, or anybody who involved in communications. The Quran consistently emphasizes honesty. Being honest is very, very important. Yeah, because if you are not honest to begin with, and of course the rest will somehow affected by our level of honesty. Yeah. And then I think we have heard a phrase that says, if you lie once, there's a tendency for you to provide more lies to cover that lie in the future. Right. Yeah. In that respect, yeah, it doesn't matter who you are, whether you are somebody or a nobody, for example, having a sense of respect to those who are going to receive your message is very, very important. Yeah. Even if the person is just a kid or a small child, for example, thinking that they might have not read enough to understand my informations. Yeah. But this is why you talk about, if you look at how the Prophet interacted with kids, yeah, the messages of the Prophet are very much tailored according to who is going to receive that message. The question might be the same, yeah. For example, there were two occasions in the past, yeah, during the time of the Prophet. Two companions of the Prophet asked the Prophet one similar question on should they kiss the wife during fasting month, yeah. And then one young guy asked the same thing to the Prophet, and one old guy asked the same thing to the Prophet. And then the Prophet answered differently. To the young guy, he said that you should not be doing that because the Prophet knows what will be the implications. And then when an older guy asked the Prophet the same kind of question, and the Prophet says you can do it because this has to do with your self-control. So when it comes to interpersonal communication as a source or as a sender of the message, we should be able to see who is or understand who is the receiver of that particular message. So by doing that, then only you know how to ensure the message is prepared and expressed in such a way it does not offend the receiver of that particular message. Yeah. And then so these are the key considerations, or among the key considerations. I'm not saying that these are the only considerations. There are many. The first one is stated just now, mindfulness and respect. Yeah. Islamic teaching stress the importance of being mindful. So whenever we interact with anybody interpersonally, we have to be there physically and mentally. You have situations sometimes, yeah, where you talk with someone, the person doesn't really pay attention to you, or you yourself, you ask a question, but then you don't really listen to the feedback from the other communicator. Especially when you have, when the intention is, for example, when you attend conferences, seminars, or forum, sometimes the intention is just to test someone's knowledge. So it's not so much that you want to really know what is the fact all about. So whenever we ask or anybody asks any question, you have to be ready to listen rather than simply asking question as simple as if you talk about in the context of interpersonal communications, as simple as if you talk about a father and a son. So if a father asks the son questions, and then expecting he knows the answer, or expecting he will try to understand the answer, then of course he must be there physically and both mentally as well. Be mindful. And of course, be sensitive to others' feeling. It doesn't matter who we are, as I said just now. There are no difference where the sorry. There are no. I think there is no difference between knowledgeable person and not knowledgeable person in that context, because both human beings or both individuals, they do have feelings. Yeah. So if you talk about a normal context of interpersonal communication, we have to be we have to be sensitive to others' feeling, and of course, because that will somehow affect the following action. Yeah, and the reason is because when you have that kind of take or understanding, yeah, then of course that will somehow promote respectful and considerate communications. You don't see yourself as better than the other person in that interactions. Yeah, and then of course emotional state. Yeah, Muslim must be aware of the emotional state during communications. Yeah, are you happy? Are you okay? Are you not okay? Are you angry? What is your current feeling when you interact with someone? Sometimes when you interact in the state that you are angry, the terms or the words that you use might be very harsh and very negative. And when you are happy, the terms and words that you use or the cues that you deliver can be very, very positive as well, even if the message is negative. As simple as if you as a teacher and you are angry with your student, and you know that the message is negative in nature, but if you are delivering the message when you are angry, it doesn't sound nice, and the terms used might be not nice as well, right? And of course, I think if you refer to this particular, if you are fond of reading the books written by the early scholars, Muslim scholars, for example, Bukhari came out with this book, Al-Adab Al-Mufrad. You can refer to page 245. This one, yeah. One is strongly recommended to refrain from communicating when one is angry. And of course, this is based on one hadith. Yeah. When you are angry, be silent. Of course, in one hadith, the term "don't be angry" repeated 3 times because there'll be negative implications. So, in the context of interpersonal communication, even though there is a need for you to communicate, but your state doesn't permit you to communicate, it's better for you to withdraw from that particular interaction, because there'll be many negative consequences, especially for example between husband and wife. I think in Islam, I'm going to pick all these some examples. If a husband asks, I divorce you once as counted, and then when you are angry, there is a chance or there is a possibility for you to simply say, I divorce you 100 times. So now it's like you cannot. I think if you are a husband, you know the repercussions of saying that, and that happens normally when you are angry. Yeah. Then of course the last one is there are many, not only 3. There are many. I won't be able to cover every single one of them. Then you have contextual factor. Context. Yeah. Play crucial roles in Islamic interpersonal communication. So you have to know the context of your interaction. Is it formal? Is it informal? Is it just to crack a jokes only? Then of course, objective is also very, very important. You have to know why do you interact to begin with. Because not knowing the objective, the interaction will cause, will create a very awkward moment. For example, if you see a stranger and you want to be a friend of that stranger, the objective is to be friend with someone, right? And of course, if you see your student, then of course, basically, when you ask your student, how are you doing today? You are trying to inquire the well-being of your students. Then, of course, you have another contact which is to share certain information, especially relevant information that you feel that you have to share with someone. Right. For example, if you receive a news that someone passes away, yeah, and the reason for you, even if you don't like to interact with that person, but you have to do it because now I have to convey this particular very important message to the other party just now. Yeah. And then these are basically some of the key consideration if you want to understand Islamic interpersonal communications, or you want to practice Islamic communication, Islamic interpersonal communications. Then one of the components which is very critical when it comes to interpersonal communication is self-disclosure. Without this, if you refer to any text, they have this diagram showing you whether that interaction will lead to closer relationship or just once only. In many occasions, you can see the IPC is very much associated with the kind of relationship that you are going to have or that you have with the other party in that particular interactions. Mean to say the kind of relationship between the source and the receiver of that particular message. So one of the principle is self-disclosure. If you have the intentions to develop a relationship, or if you have the intention to initiate any kind of relationship, then there is no other way other than self-disclosing yourself, which is very, very important. Self-disclosure has to be differentiated from slip of tongue, because sometimes we accidentally disclose who we are, not intentionally. That is not what we call as self-disclosure. As simple as when you meet a stranger, for example, for students during orientation program, when they meet a new student, they say, my name is such and such. That is basically the beginning of self-disclosure. So without knowing someone's name, then that's going to be a bit difficult for you to develop that relationship. So it will end at that point where you just simply say, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. That's it. So there is no intention from your side to develop the relationship further. So if both parties, or at least one party, has that intention to develop that relationship, then you have no other options other than self-disclose ourselves. Yeah. So of course, you cannot simply self-disclose without purpose, yeah, without knowing the reason for disclosing who you are or what you are doing in your life, etc., etc. So these are some of the these key issues that you have to consider. The information that you want to share. This is some of the issues, concerning issues when it comes to online interactions, because anybody can be anybody on social media on any social media platform. An old guy can be a young man on social media, and then a young underage girl can be a 25-year-old 25-year-old women on social media. Unless you talk about face-to-face, physically, both parties are there, then of course you can be sure of that. Yeah. So the first thing is the accuracy of information. This is very, very important. Even if you have situations sometimes where someone never reveal his true name, he prefer to use the other names, right? And of course, that's one. Second one is there a need for you to say, do you have any genuine need to share that information? Yeah, because once you give the information, you cannot take it back. Yeah, you cannot retract it. Once it's out there, it's out there. So this is why we have to be very, very careful. For example, as simple as this. I personally, I don't really share my phone number with anybody unless there is a need to do so. But maybe for some of you, that is too common. You can simply share because you feel that is not really private to me. But this is why we have to know why do we share the information. Of course, in some contexts, you have no options. For example, if you have a business meeting, without sharing the network number, then of course you'll not be able to widen your network. But in a very informal context, this is why I talk about the need of the information in that particular context. Yeah. Then of course, the last one stated here is the benefit of sharing information. Do you get anything? I'm not talking about financial benefit. It can just be social benefit only. Yeah. So you have to really consider the benefit of sharing certain info. Right. And this is the reason why basically if you go to any supermarket, you don't really tell the cashier, oh, my name is such and such, because you don't see the benefit of sharing your name. Right. Of course, they now we talk about using cards for payment. Of course, they know who are you, etc., etc. Am I right? But in your context, you see no reason for you to share this info unless you have a context where you have to share the info. Then only you share the info. And of course, the other consideration that you have to look at will be these three. Yeah. In the media, they talk about this: the right to know, the need to know, and the wants to know. But the most compelling reason for me, according to a group of scholars, is the need to know. So the wants to know basically, for example, you and your friend, yeah, you talk about someone else, a celebrity, for example. If you talk about the range, the right to know, the need to know, and the wants to know, gossiping a lot about celebrity during IPC it's really it's not really needed. That is what we call under the wants to know. You can still live a good life without knowing who are the celebrities. So these are the three categories. These are the three classification of how types of information that you might want to consider before sharing the info. Do you think that the party has the right to know the info? For example, you and your husband, for example, right? Maybe your husband is at work and you are at home, and maybe maybe one of the family members passed away. I think in that kind of context, maybe you think that your husband has the right to know. On the other hand, you have a situation where you can postpone it for a while. Then, of course, maybe you want to wait until your husband comes home. Yeah. And then these are some of the issues that we have to know when it comes to self-disclosure. And of course, as I said just now, when it comes to interpersonal communication, there are the do's and the don'ts. There are many do's, there are many don'ts as well. For today, I'm going to share some of the don'ts as written by Al-Ghazali. So this is the source of this particular writing is Al-Ghazali, and of course the last one is given by Hashim Kamali, one of the former scholars of IUM. So you can refer to Kitab Adab, and you can check this one, Calamities of Speech, or in Arabic known as Afat al-Lisan. So these are the first five are given by Al-Ghazali. The last one is given by, not by me, this is by Hashim Kamali, one of the former professors of IUM. The first one, I think everybody knows, lying is a no-no thing to do when it comes to interpersonal communication. The second one is backbiting. And then the third one is acrimony. And then bitterness or ill feeling. The fourth one is psychopathy, or in Malay, we have a term known as membodit, or apple polishing. In English, there are many terms. Or you praise someone just because you want to get something from someone. It's not a sincere praise, and we have to be very careful with this one. Yeah, and then Islam doesn't allow us to praise someone excessively, right? Because the reason why, the impact is, if someone is a charitable person, and suddenly you say, "Oh, you are so charitable," and then of course, I think we know as Muslim that the moment someone praises you, that you are a good person, there is a chance for the person to have a sense of ujub or riya, or sense of arrogance in that sense, right? You feel that you are good. So this is why we have to be very careful. And then, of course, we have many examples of this now, yeah, where people simply joke without knowing why. And of course, if you watch programs, comedy sitcoms, or whatever, there are many of this. The fifth one, and of course, this is the sixth one is added by Hashim Kamali, excessive questioning. So That's the reason I said before in the beginning, yeah, knowing the objective of the interaction is very, very important. Yeah. Similarly, if you refer to the 40 hadiths, the first hadith cited in the book is intention. Intention is very, very important. So why do you communicate with that person? Because if the intention is good, inshallah, the outcome will be good. If the intention is not good, then there is a high possibility that the result will be not good as well. Right. So if you refer to the 40 hadiths, you can see the first hadith is on intention, which is very, very important. So we don't communicate aimlessly. You have to know why do you communicate. As I said just now, one scenario given just now, when you ask a speaker a questions, you have to ask yourself, why do I need to ask a question? Because you have to be clear of what is the intentions. Is it to test someone's knowledge? Is it to show that you are better than a speaker? So these are issues that have to be considered before we are, including me myself, before I ask any question to anybody. And then so a bit of this, I mean, I think you know it's lying, you know it's backbiting. And then just to be clear, backbiting is not defamation. Defamation is a legal term. Mean to say if you commit defamation, then you can be persecuted. Backbiting is just between you and, of course, your God. It's not illegal, it's legal, but then, there'll be repercussions of backbiting in that sense. Right. Yeah. And then, of course, acrimony, as simple as this. Yeah. This is why I talk about debating aimlessly. You debate with someone, but with no reason. You have situations sometimes, where the aim of a debate is to find the truth. And that is the aim, or that is the goal of the interactions. But more often than you can see that people debate aimlessly just to show I'm better than you. So this is why you have to know ourselves. We have to know ourselves. Why do we start that interaction? Is there any noble intention for starting that interaction interpersonally? And sometimes if you talk about debate, for example, you can see the hallmark here. Acrimony refers to this one. You try to embarrass the other party just now. It doesn't matter who. Because the aim is, I just want to show that I'm better than you. Right. Yeah. And then that is acrimony. Then you have second, insincere flatterer. Yeah. This is the one I mentioned just now. We talk about self-gratifications. You might be sincere in the beginning, but then someone says that you are very good, you are charitable, you are so generous. That will somehow lead to self-gratifications. You feel that you are good, which is, I think, in Islam, without sincerity, we don't get anything from our own action. So it goes with the wind, as simple as that. So you don't get that benefit of doing good, because the moment this is why we are not really. Of course, you can say that you are a good person, but you have to know the limit. We have to know the limit, right? Yeah, and then of course, this one, anger, because this will lead to this, and this basically maybe within a family setting, you and your son, you and your daughter. With you and your spouse, for example. So this is where you have to know when you feel angry, you should withdraw from that interaction, because there'll be many negative repercussions of that interactions. Yeah. And then this is where sometimes if you are angry with your friend, you start to garnish your friend. In the sense that you start to remind your friend, I have done so many things to you in the past. And then in that context, you have lost all the rewards. Right. Yeah. And then I'm going to proceed further. So these are some of the don'ts. And of course, in Islam, we are reminded to be silent if you have nothing good to say. Right. This, of course, you can simply use your non-verbal cues properly if you want to, especially when speech would serve no useful purpose. Right. Yeah, because this one has to do with, I'm going to go straight to this particular hadith, yeah? This one. This one has to do with this one, this particular hadith. So whatever that we do now as a living person will somehow affect whether you go to paradise or hell. It's more than just getting a cert, it's more than just getting a scroll or any kind of human recognition. So that's reason we have to be very, very mindful of what we want to say, or what we say. Yeah, I'm going to return back to this one just now. And then this one, silence is sometimes can be, not sometimes, it should be, we need to practice how to be silent sometimes. Yeah. And then of course, this is one of the quotation from some, I can't remember exactly which the source of this particular statement. Yeah, sorry. Perfection of faith cannot be accomplished unless the believer abandons distortions in the joke. This one has to do with excessive joking just now. And of course, abandons acrimonious contentions, even if what he's saying is true. Right. There are situations sometimes, yeah, you start to you have the idea, I just want to win the argument only. So now it's about winning and losing. So in Islam, yeah, if the situation is, if a situation worsens, then you might want to withdraw from that interaction, even if just say you are seen as a loser. Right, because a loser may be in the eyes of human beings, but not in the eyes of Allah, as simple as that. So more often than not, we are very much concerned about how do human beings look at us rather than how our Creator look at us. So the goal is very much pleasing the creature, not the Creator. Yeah, and then of course, let's proceed further. This is a very important hadith, especially for me. Sharing information, interpersonal communication, guiding and misguiding. Yeah. So this is one of the many important hadiths that I always remind myself. Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu reported, Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, if anyone calls others to follow right guidance, his reward will be equivalent to those who follow him, without any reward being diminished or reduced in any respect. And if anyone invites others to follow error, then of course the sin will be equivalent to the people who follow him in sins without the sins being diminished. So whenever we share any kind of information with the other party in that interactions, we should remind ourselves of the consequences of our sharing our messages now. As simple as this, I strongly believe everybody, if you are Muslim, you read a Fatiha every day at least. We have 2 times for Subuh, 3 times for Maghrib, 4 for Isha, 4 for Asar. Yeah, we read Al-Fatiha multiple times in a day. And I think you know, in Al-Fatiha, you have 113 letters. And I think you know the principle is very easy. In Islam, one letter of the Quranic text equivalent to 10 marks or 10 rewards. So just imagine how many can you get. Yeah. If you teach or if you got someone in your interpersonal interaction on how to recite Al-Fatiha correctly. On the other hand, if you share information which is very negative in nature, and then somehow the person followed that, use that information, then of course the result will be the same. I think if you as simple as this, yeah, if you talk about social media, there are so many tips given by social media influencer. Right. With that, if we know this principle, then of course we are going to be very, very careful when it comes to sharing any kind of information. Yeah. And then I have a few seconds left. Then of course this is my conclusions. This is basically a bit of what I've written in the we have a text on Islamic communication, but yet to be published. We are still finalizing the text. This is one of the segments in the text written by me and the other 2 writers, yet to be published. We are still at the final stage of that book writing. So this is the conclusion from my part. Yeah, the essence of Islamic interpersonal communication is encapsulated in the hadith narrated by this particular companion. No one of you shall become a true believer until he desires for his brother what he desires for himself. You can refer to Bukhari and Muslim Riyadhus Salihin, page 236. So this is basically the standard you have to observe if you talk about understanding interpersonal communication from the Islamic perspective. I think, Sister Jariyah, that will be the last PowerPoint from me. Yep, that's the last one. Sorry, not the one. So that will be the last PowerPoint from me. If you have any questions,
Assalamualaikum, Doktor.
yeah, like it's all about yeah. I'm done with my PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah, thank you very much, Doctor.
Right.
We open for Q&A, Doctor.
Yeah. If there is any question, but I know there are a few comments from this. Of course, you can get the point if you want, no issues. I think that I just comments only, no question. No, all right.
Yeah, thank you very much, Doctor.
No worries.
Maybe
Have
because
a nice day, everybody.
If the participant have the question. What should I put here?
No question,
Correct. I'm not sure that this is a
Okay,
question or not from Aisyah Rashid.
Yeah. What is your comment on the barrage of false information that is being spread via social media, especially on TikToks? This is how I look at it. Yeah. If I can be blunt and direct, yeah, because sometimes it's hard to understand if the situation, if you look at the situation from an intellectual perspective, because you tend to be you start to use certain theory. Me personally, as a person, yeah, I see this world as an imperfect world. You don't expect everybody to be angel, and of course, you don't expect everybody to be evil. So the tendency for the not good, the negative stuff to be on social media is going to be there, whether we like it or not. So I always advise my students, we are not in heaven yet. We don't expect everything perfect. But what we can do is more on ourselves as the consumer of the information. How do you see ourselves? For example, when you look at the social media, as simple as YouTube, am I right? When you open YouTube, there's so many suggestions to you, am I right? You have the thumbnails here and there. Similar with our social media as well, I think. So you are the one having to decide, yeah, whether to proceed further with that selection or you simply, I'm not going to watch it. At the end of the day, we are responsible for our selections or our decision. Right. Anybody can post anything on social media because you are given the freedom. That is what we call freedom anyway in the real world. So it's like when you go to supermarket, you have healthy food and you have not healthy food, am I right? So you are the one, you have the freedom to choose healthy food or not healthy food. And more often than not, when it comes to food, we tend to be for food, physical need, we tend to be very, very careful. But when it comes to spiritual food, we tend to be very careless. That's a problem sometimes. And we know whatever that we eat or whatever that we consume will somehow affect our spirituality. Right. So because we cannot stop TikTok, we cannot stop YouTube, we cannot stop Facebook from uploading all this. That is out of our control. The only thing that we can do as a person is maybe you can provide suggestion which doesn't work more often than not. It's about we controlling ourselves. You as a parent, you control your children, for example. Right. Yeah. So all these are there for many reasons. Right. So you know the reason why this thing happened. And people are living by uploading, making money by uploading all this information. So as a consumer of information, we have to know, is it useful? Is it beneficial? Is it good for me as a Muslim, for example? Yeah. So I have no other suggestion other than we as a consumer of information, we have to be very, very careful with what we eat. I'm talking about it or what. Yeah. Guys, I hope I answered your question, Sister Rashid.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much, Doctor.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Uh,
Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam. Hopefully, all the participants can grab that all the benefit from you, and inshallah, we will see you again in the next session. Doctor, inshallah. You already mute yourself, Doctor. Okay, thank you very much. And we have breaks now until 11. Inshallah, we have 30 minutes to break. We'll see you again, inshallah, in the next session. Assalamualaikum, Doktor. Dr. Tunku Mohar.
Waalaikumsalam. Yes.
How are you, Doctor?
Alhamdulillah, I'm fine.
Good. Still good morning, ya, Doctor. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, Doctor, before we begin, can you test the slide, Doctor?
Okay, let me see. Yeah.
Can see.
Wait, yeah. Okay. Can you see it?
Can you move the slide?
I have done it. Can you see? Okay. Can you see?
Okay.
All right.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And you can see it. This is the first time for you, right, Doctor?
Yes, and I'm both excited and nervous actually.
Sure. From political science. Yeah.
Okay, how does this go? Can you give a short?
Okay, we have normally every week from the first week now already 13
Mm-hmm.
with 13, and we have every Saturday for lecturers, and we consider it two lecturers one session, and now this is the second session for today. Began with department start with department psychology.
Mm-hmm.
Now politics, and the last one is sociology,
Okay.
inshallah.
Mm-hmm.
And may I start the time because we have 1 minute, and now because you are the first lectures, so I will introduce a bit regarding you to the our participant.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let me start. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh to everyone. We will come back. Alhamdulillah, come back to the second session. And for today, for this session, we will meet with Assistant Professor Dr. Tunku Mokhtar. Before I begin this session, let me introduce a bit regarding Professor Assistant Professor Dr. Tunku Mokhtar. He is an assistant professor of political science in the Department of Political Science at the International Islamic University Malaysia. He is the editor in chief of Intellectual Discourse, the flagship journal of the Department of Political Science at IIUM. His area of specializing include international relation, geopolitics, and foreign policy. Today, inshallah, we will listen from his topic today regarding geopolitics of the Muslim world. Without further ado, Doctor, falyatafaddal ma'jura. You have 45 minutes, Doctor, and leave 5 minutes for Q&A.
So 40 plus 5 or 45 plus 5? Sorry.
For 40 minutes and 5 minutes for Q&A.
Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Dr. Jaria, for the kind introduction. Except that probably one correction. The journal is actually the flagship journal for the university and not simply the department. Anyway, yeah. And in terms of that journal, we'll be publishing it either today or tomorrow. We'll just got the typeset. And I would like to invite you to also have a look at the journal later. The title is Intellectual Discourse. Okay. I'm given this topic, and I believe, like all of you, I'm also still learning about this topic, this area, geopolitics of the Muslim world, and I try my best to provide you some important aspects, okay, of geopolitics in the Muslim world. Now, in terms of content, what I'm going to talk today would be firstly about the concept of geopolitics, and then two concepts that are related to this, also from the Islamic perspective, the concept of Ummah and Khilafah. Then I'll be talking in general about the Muslim world, some organizations among the Muslim states, our political or geopolitical challenges, and finally the conclusion. Okay, to begin with, let's discuss geopolitics. Okay, and I think you find two words there, geo and politics. Initially, there was this discipline or area, sub-area within international relations that was known as political geography. But over time, okay, the evolution of political geography would bring this sub-area, okay, to be known as geopolitics, because political geography has an emphasis on geography, but in the study of international politics or international relations, of course, we want to see the politics, okay, of these different geographical areas. So the nature of international relations itself is very, how shall we say, multidisciplinary. Okay, and in there we have, for example, the study not only of politics but also regarding law, economics, history, geography. So it is in fact, okay, a multidisciplinary area. In fact, in some universities, they have changed the name from simply international relations or international politics to now become global studies, okay, or global politics. Now, the word geopolitics, in fact, refer to politics, or especially international relations, as influenced by geographical factors, okay, to look at how the geography of these states, for example, affected, okay, their politics and also their international relations with other states. Now, so geopolitics helps us to understand the forces and also arrangements that transform the map of the world. I think if you look at the world's political map today, it is quite stable, but let's say if you look back at some years ago, almost a quarter century ago, in 1990, for example, there were changes in the boundaries of states, states merge, or a big state disintegrated. So there are, of course, okay, this transformation in the map of the world. Now, central to the concept of geopolitics, okay, is the concept of power. Okay, in fact, in the study of international relations or international politics, the thinking about politics has always been about the struggle for power. Okay, one of the earlier scholars, a very prominent scholar of international relations by the name of Hans Morgenthau, for example, writes that international politics, like all politics, okay, is the struggle for power. Now, and when we talk about power, of course, this is a very complex concept. In fact, it has different interpretations, okay, and there is no one definition that can really capture, okay, the concept of power. Power, of course, is about influence. Power is also about, let's say, elements or the characteristics that states have. There are tangible elements of power. There are intangible elements of power. Tangible elements of power like size, population, for example, military capacity, economic capacity, and so on and so forth. Intangible elements of power would include something like leadership, the types of government, bureaucracy of a state. So all these elements, okay, together capture, okay, the extent of power, okay, that a state has. And despite the fact that we say power as influence or power as capacity, we have to also acknowledge that power is relative, okay, because there are instances in the international history, for example, where we see even a very powerful state, a superpower, for example, could not defeat, okay, a smaller or weaker state, as in the case of the US in Vietnam or the Soviet Union in Afghanistan. Now, and when we talk about the power of the Muslim states, because at some points of the world history, Muslim caliphates were among the major powers in international politics. This can be seen, for example, during the Abbasid and the Osmanli caliphates. In fact, at different points in history in the 18th, 19th century, the Osmanli was considered to be one of the great powers in Europe, okay, together with Britain, France, Russia, Germany, and Austria-Hungary. But of course, the extent of power of the Osmanli Caliphate also fluctuated during that time. Coming to our contemporary era, of course, we can say that currently no Muslim states can be considered, okay, as an important power internationally. And in fact, in international politics, okay, there are categories of power. In our international relations today, okay, we tend to say that the system is unipolar, moving toward a bipolar world, okay, where, with the rise of China as the other pole of power that challenge the American power. But in addition to this great power category, we have also this category of middle powers. Probably some of the Muslim states can be considered as such. Indonesia and Malaysia in Southeast Asia, for example, Turkey or among, not necessarily in Europe, but especially in the region we now refer to as the Middle East, because some scholars have also considered Turkey to be part of the Middle East. And this is part of political geography or geopolitics in that sense. Okay, where do we locate, okay, this country within the geographical category? And there are also some important powers like Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and Iran. But none have actually, or none can be considered, okay, as great powers. And in fact, most of the Muslim states, okay, can also be considered as the small powers. Now, now let's look at one concept, okay, in the Holy Quran, okay, and Ummah, and I think probably in some of your classes before this has been discussed. Um, but I'm looking at the concept of Ummah, okay, as this community of Muslims. Okay, so the word Ummah is mentioned 64 times in the Holy Quran, in both the singular and plural forms. In singular form, this has been mentioned 51 times. In plural form, it has been mentioned 13 times. Now, it has multiple meanings in the Quran, including Ummah as nation, Ummah as a religious community, as a group of people, Ummah as a period of time, and Ummah even as religion. So it has different meanings depending on the context. The word Ummah, okay, is used in the Holy Quran. So the meaning of the word Ummah, okay, has changed or changes, okay, throughout the Quran. When it first appears, the word means Qawm, okay, or people. The Quran also states that each Ummah has a messenger, okay, Prophet Musa alayhi salam, Prophet Isa alayhi salam, who relays a divine message to the nation. Also, the Quran mentions Ummah in relation to the concept of humanity. There's a verse that states that all of humanity was once a single Ummah, okay, but later began to have different views. So the word Ummah, okay, is therefore a significant term in Islam, and it's also mentioned in the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, refers to a group of people who share a common religious, linguistic, or ethical identity. The Quran states that each Ummah has a messenger who relays a divine message to the nation. Now, the reason I'm putting forward, okay, this concept of Ummah as a context, okay, is to show that there is this call, okay, for unity among this religious community. So we submit, okay, to the one God, to Allah. Allah is one, okay, and the concept of oneness of Tawheed also applies in that sense. Okay, the Tawhidic paradigm therefore asks us, okay, the Muslims, okay, to unite among ourselves. Now, throughout the history of Islam, okay, until 1924 of the Common Era, at least, okay, there had been this manifestation, okay, of the unity, because the political unit or the polity after the demise of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, okay, had been ruled by one single authority. So this can be seen during the caliphate of the Rashidun, the Umayyad, the Abbasid, and the Osmani, and there was also this Ismaili Shi'i caliphate, okay, the Fatimid caliphate between the year 909 to 1171. So the Osmani fell officially in 1924. It was one of the warring parties, okay, during World War I, and unfortunately, of course, the Osmanis sided, okay, with the alliance that lost the war, and as a result of this, okay, the Ummah disintegrated, and the Muslim communities throughout the world had been now, how shall we say, organized, okay, along the nation state. So we therefore now adopted, okay, the modern nation state system, a system from the Western intellectual history, okay, dated back to the 17th century, specifically in 1648 with the signing of the Treaty or the Peace of Westphalia. Now, one of the consequences, okay, of the Treaty of Westphalia was the creation of sovereign states. And of course, that is not to say that immediately post 1648 all states become sovereign. It was a gradual process, but eventually we have nation states that are founded, okay, on four elements in terms of territory, in terms of population, in terms of the governmental system, okay, and also independence, or what we call sovereignty. And most Muslim states, okay, become this part of the modern nation state system after the fall of the caliphate. Now, the question is whether we can go back, okay, to the caliphate system. There have been some movements that work toward this area, and they have, of course, different approaches, okay, on how to come back, okay, to this old caliphate system. But that said, okay, it's not simply that we want to accept this modern nation state system, but this is the reality, okay, that all Muslim states, okay, have to work with. Now coming to the Muslim world, okay, and this is one map, okay, that depicts the Muslim world. Of course, Muslims are all over the world, and in fact, if you do an internet search, okay, and ask this question, in which states we don't have Muslims, the answer would be probably one, okay, that is in the Vatican City, but they are all over the world. But in terms of concentration, the ones in green, okay, are states that have more than 50% population. The ones in yellow, okay, had Muslim population between 10 to 50%. So most Muslim states are concentrated in Asia. In Asia and Africa. Okay, and there are also a few Muslim majority states in Europe. And in addition to that, of course, in Central Asia and the Caucasus. Now, there are approximately 1.9 billion Muslims, about nearly 2 billion Muslims now. Okay, and they make up nearly a quarter of the world's population. At present, there are about 24.1% Muslims, okay, all over the world. Muslims are majority in 49 countries, okay, and they make up the majority of the population in 91% of the Middle East North Africa region, or MENA, 90% of Central Asia, 65% of states of the Caucasus, 42% of Southeast Asia, 32% of South Asia, and about 42% of Sub-Saharan Africa. So these are the major areas, okay, where Muslims, okay, make up the majority of the population in the state. Islam is also the world's fastest growing religion, according to this Pew Research Center, a survey organization in the United States. It predicts that the Muslim population, based on the current trend, will grow faster, okay, than the Christian population, mainly due to the fact that they have higher fertility rates and a younger average age. Muslims also speak hundreds of languages and come from diverse ethnic backgrounds. Okay, and of course, I'm sure we are aware of all of this. Now, the importance of the Muslim states can be seen in the fact that they are also endowed with key waterways such as the Dardanelles, the Straits of Malacca, the Bab el Mandab, the Suez Canal, and the Straits of Hormuz, meaning they control some of the key waterways in the world. Muslim states are endowed also with enormous hydrocarbon and forest reserves, and own between 66.2 to 75.9% of the total world oil reserve. This can be found in Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Iran, Kuwait, the UAE, Qatar, Yemen, Libya, Nigeria, Algeria, Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan, Malaysia also, Indonesia, and Brunei. So in terms of resources, Muslim states are actually not short of these resources. Now, coming to our contemporary international politics, and for that, we're talking about the world after the Cold War. The Cold War between 1945 to about 1991 was marked with the ideological and superpower conflicts between the United States and the Soviet Union. After the Cold War has ended, some scholars have come out with different takes on how the world would be after the Cold War has ended. And I think there are three major contributions by Western scholars on this. One was to suggest that probably history has ended, and this is through the work by Francis Fukuyama, who suggested that since the conflict between liberalism and socialism ended with the fall of socialism, we can expect the spread of liberalism throughout the world. The end of history was his take on generally the flaws of the Marxian from Karl Marx, Karl Marx's idea about the dialectic materialism of historical evolution, where he said that history is marked by conflicts, or the interaction between thesis and antithesis, and since liberalism no longer has an antithesis, so the way forward would be to see liberalism triumphs in international politics. Yet another scholar, Benjamin Barber, looked at this decline of nation states. Nation states will no longer probably have the same power that they used to have. So in his work entitled Jihad versus Macworld, he suggested that nation states are declining, and what we will be seeing will be the conflicting pools of, on the one hand, tribalism, This was what he referred to as jihad, not jihad as understood by the Muslims, and globalism, Macworld, okay, borrowing from the idea of from McDonald's. Okay, so the the world therefore, okay, would see this conflict, okay, between two strong pools, okay, of one tribalism and another globalism, okay, and in that process, probably the significance, okay, of nation states would decline. Yet another stage, okay, and this the third one is this work by these international relations scholars by the name of Samuel Huntington, and I think you're familiar with this work, The Clash of Civilizations, in which he suggested that the world after the Cold War has ended, okay, would be divided to 7 or 8 civilizations, according to him. Among others, the Western civilization, the Islamic civilization, Japanese, Hindu, Confucian, and others. And his thesis was that the war in the future, okay, would be between the West and Islam, okay, the Western and Islamic civilization. So the main idea behind this thinking was that just because the Cold War has ended, okay, it does not mean that conflicts as experienced during the Cold War, okay, would simply stop. Okay, but meaning to say that there will be a new type of conflict, and the conflict will be cultural, okay, or what he called civilizational. So this is actually the context, okay, of the world that we are living in. Now, so quickly going to Islamic organizations among the Muslim states. We are familiar with the OIC. Okay, when it was first established, it was called the Organization of Islamic Cooperation. But there was a change of name and the charter of the organization, if I'm not mistaken, in 2008, and now it is called, okay, the Organization of Islamic Cooperation. This is actually the second largest intergovernmental organization after the United Nations. So just by looking at it, okay, at this fact, okay, we see that it is significant and it has potential, okay, to be an influential international organization. It has 57 members, okay, covering 4 continents. This is the collective voice of the Muslim world, okay, not only as a religious-based organization, okay, but also to safeguard the interests in economic, social, and political areas. The OIC, okay, has its own organizational structure. The headquarters is in Jeddah, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. In terms of the role of the OIC, if you look at the charter, okay, of the OIC, it uses the word Ummah, but it does not denote the entire Muslim community united and functioning as a single political unit. In reality, of course, the OIC is just like any other international organizations. This is an organization of sovereign Muslim nation states. Yeah. So this is the fact. This is the organization where members, okay, of this organization come from nation states overwhelming majority of whom, okay, are Muslim majorities. Now, so despite the aspiration, okay, to have one ummah, the reality is that even during the Cold War, the Muslim states were also divided into three camps, some pro-US, some pro-Soviet Union, while others take a non-aligned stance, like, let's say, Indonesia and Malaysia in this region. It is a transnational religious actor, and the critics or criticisms, okay, against the OIC is that it has, or it is simply a symbolic meeting place. It is not yet, okay, a dynamic political body. It has quite a disappointing record. It's driven by infighting, power struggles, and the organization so far, okay, has failed to articulate clear and consistent policies. Now, the thinking that OIC is homogeneous, that Muslim states is homogeneous, created this perception, okay, among some Western observers that the OIC would probably encourages Islamic fundamentalism, but I think we know that this is flawed because in some instances, okay, OIC members are frequently at each other's throat, okay, on the matter. It has, of course, this potential to be effective, okay, because of some commonalities. We have common, almost common history. We have, of course, common religion, and we share also contemporary grievances, okay, against unequal economic and cultural power relations among the OIC. Against some unequal economic and cultural power relationships. So there are prospects, okay, to be more effective. The challenge now is how to actually get common grounds, okay, and common stance on international issues. Among the more difficult roles for the OIC to play is with the nearly 1/3 of the world's total Muslims who live as a minority in various countries of the world. I think one of the topics from political science was Muslim minorities, and I think you have seen this, okay, and the OIC finds it difficult, of course, to deal with this. Examples include Kashmir, southern Philippines, southern Thailand, for that matter, India, Bulgaria, and a few other countries. So actions by OIC has been selective and also tentative, and this needed to be addressed. The OIC still cannot speak in one voice, and this is part of the consequences, okay, of the nation-state system, because nation-states seem to have their own interests, okay, and primary among them, okay, is for their own survival. So because of these complexities, okay, it is of course difficult for them to speak in one voice. There are also issues like poverty, Islamophobia, educational standards, social development in the Muslim world. These are areas where we see some improvement, okay, where the OIC has now begun to speak with one voice. Now, other international organizations among the Muslim states would include the Arab League, or formerly the League of the Arab States, the Gulf Cooperation Council, and also this D8, okay, or the short for Developing Aid. So this is a small step, I think, toward greater cooperation in the Muslim world. The D8 organization, or the D8 Organization for Economic Cooperation, simply known as D8, a global organization that works to improve standards of living and economic position of its member countries. And the areas of cooperation include trade, research and innovation, humanitarian development, cooperation in youth development, energy and minerals, and also industrial cooperation. Now, the members of the eight are, in terms of alphabetical order, Bangladesh, Egypt, Indonesia, Iran, Malaysia, Nigeria, Pakistan, and Turkey. So we see representation of Southeast Asia, of South Asia, the Middle East, okay, and also Africa, okay, in this organization. And they are starting small, okay, especially in terms of trying to improve, okay, trade relations among themselves. Now, some of our current geopolitical changes, okay, include Palestine. This is something that has gone on, okay, for a long time. It had, of course, its origin in terms of the fall of the Osmani Caliphate, okay, and the mandate system that was established under the League of Nations, and we see Israeli aggression, but we also see that the solution, okay, to this problem could not be reached, okay, until today. We see also some intrastate conflicts, okay, especially the conflict in Syria, okay, where eventually there was a change of regime. Other challenges included Iran, and Iran is a subject of threat perception, okay, by the West, and America, Europe, for example, see Iranian nuclear ambition as something that can upset, okay, the balance of power in international politics. There's also this concern about Turkey, okay, or Turkey becoming leader of the Muslim world. Of course, among Muslim states, probably we don't have this consensus, but there is this perception in the West, okay, that Turkey or Turkey, okay, is trying to position itself, okay, as the leader of the Muslim world. There are also concerns regarding terrorism, regarding violent extremism in the Muslim states, okay, and this could also spread, okay, to others. But at the same time, you see also some states that have this moderating influence among the Muslim states, especially when you look at Malaysia and Indonesia. Also, the question of how do we Muslim states, okay, face the current geopolitical challenges, okay, in the face of US-China rivalry, and now also Russia, okay, in terms of power competition. So My conclusion is that OIC should be revamped, okay, should be reformed to play more dynamic role. And Muslim states probably still lack hard power, but we can use some soft power, the power of influence or cultural, how shall we say, we can export, okay, the Islamic culture, the culture of peace, not only among Muslim countries, okay, but also outside them, and also to use what some scholars call smart power, okay, meaning the mix, okay, between hard and soft, okay, and also with the power of current technology. So there is a need to increase trade, and one of the implications of increasing trade, okay, is that it can it has this effect, okay, of furthering cooperation, okay, and spread, okay, a sense of peace among the Muslim states. And of course, there's a serious need for the Muslim states to begin speaking in one voice. I'm sorry, I have been, I think, quite quick in my delivery, but this is what I wanted to share, and we'll also and I can discuss if there are questions from the participants. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doctor, for sharing today. Now we open for Q&A. I'm checking on the chat box, Doctor.
I'm looking at the chat box. Oh, I'm also surprised that that some of you haven't heard of D8, but I think most of us here in Malaysia is aware, because this is something that that we read in the news, and I think our leaders are very enthusiastic about strengthening, especially trade relations among these Muslim majority states in D8.
Okay, Dr. Ahmad Lubis, you can unmute yourself.
Yeah, thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Yeah, thanks for the interesting presentation. I just like to ask you, we have OIC, right? And also we know OECD. In OECD, they develop that kind of organization and showing how to develop the countries inside. Is there any possibility for OIC to really, give some, showing how to develop Muslim countries through showing the various activities like economics and then education and everything shown by the OIC to show how to develop the countries. You know what I mean? You can open the OECD, many things we can see. And then many people, many countries also take a look at OECD as a reference to develop many things inside each country. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ahmad Lubis. Interesting question. But if we look back at OIC, okay, and look at how OIC was established, the context of the establishment of the OIC initially was reactionary, okay, because reactions towards the non-action, okay, against aggression in Palestine. So in that sense, before that, there was no realization among Muslim states, okay, to have cooperation among themselves. Okay? And in its early years, okay, there was not much cooperation among themselves. Meetings are not regular, so there was no unity in that sense. But that said, okay, Muslim states can learn from the experience, okay, of some of its members on how to reform the organization. Okay, and I'm looking at this effort by D8. Okay, of course, this is new. And even when you look, let's say, at the experience of Europe, EU, okay, was not established simply just like that. Okay, meaning many members, okay, and cooperate in many areas. What EU had done, okay, was actually to start small. There was only 6 states initially, and their cooperation was simply on coal and steel. So if there is anything to learn, okay, from this experience, is for probably, since we already have this organization, start small again, and D8 probably can play a significant role, establish more economic cooperation among themselves. Okay, start with non-sensitive areas, okay, and then expand it, okay, and eventually probably integrate this organization to the OIC to also work on the more political sensitive areas and begin to actually find common voice on international issues. Okay, so I think the idea is to focus, okay, on one small area, okay, and with the hope that eventually it will spill over to some other areas. This is the only, one of the ways that I think.
Thank you very much, Doctor.
Okay.
There is many questions here, but because of the time, if Doctor have time, you can answer by typing in the chat box, Doctor.
Okay, all right.
Okay, thank you very much. And hopefully it will benefit to all our participants. And this is the big issue regarding OICs. Okay, inshallah, Doctor will answer some of the remaining questions, and we continue to the next question, the next lectures who will represent for us. Thank you very much, Dr. Mokhtar. Dr. Tunku. Okay, Dr. Tunku. Okay.
Wait, yeah, how do I end this? Sorry.
Dr. Norasikin. Dr. Norasikin. Yeah. Thank you, Doctor. Okay, Doctor, can you try to share the screen?
Okay, let me try.
Can be full screen, Doctor? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
I did it already.
Okay. Without further ado, because we're already past 6 minutes, we will listen from Dr. Norasikin Basir on the topic cooperation and conflict on sociology sociological and Islamic perspective. فليتفضل مأجورة دكتور.
Thank you, Sister Zaria. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, I see you again. We met each other before last week, and today is my second time to talk about another different, I think, different context, but still, I will try to share with you the concept, these two concepts from the sociological as well as some Islamic input in our discussion today. So I don't have much time. Okay, it should be less than 40 minutes, but I will try. I have actually prepared several, but I hope I can cover everything. If not, then we will just try to give in a very quite not to be discussed at length. Okay, we have actually listened to Dr. Tunku Mohar. It's quite hot. I saw in the chat box questions and critics. So I think I need to mellow down a bit. Okay, and we try to look at from two different contrasting terms, how cooperation will be and how conflict occur in the society. So this is a course description, but I don't think I am able to. I will try my best to finish all the 3 points of course description today. Okay, so I start with the definition of cooperations. Not basically a definition, it's an explanation of what cooperation is. Okay. From my right side, we will try to define cooperation as referring to the process of working together towards a common goal or purpose. Okay, it involves individuals or groups joining effort, sharing resources, and coordinating their actions to achieve a collective outcome. Just like in my last week's discussion, okay, we will take a look at both cooperation and conflict from the micro level, from the meso level, and from the macro level. Okay, from the micro level, an example is in the workplace or in class. Okay, the cooperation on a team project. Okay, members of a team will cooperate among themselves in order to achieve a project, a business project, or any kind of project. Okay, at meso level, at community level, okay, neighbors, for example, working together to maintain a community garden. This is cooperation. At international relations, okay, or at the macro level, countries cooperating on global issues like climate change or public health. In Islamic perspective, cooperation is known as ta'awun, okay, that refers to working together for the common good and supporting each other in various aspects of life, okay, that promotes unity, solidarity, mutual support within the community. Okay. In Surah Al-Ma'idah, verse 6, Allah said, وَتَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْبِرِّ وَالتَّقْوَى وَلَا تَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْإِثْمِ وَالْعُدْوَانِ وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ إِنَّ اللَّهَ شَدِيدُ الْعِقَابِ. Okay, it means, and cooperate in righteousness and piety, but do not cooperate in sin and aggression, and fear Allah. Indeed, Allah is severe in penalty. Okay, this condition of cooperation, okay, is to enjoin people for the struggle in order to achieve the mission of having of good faith to God. Okay, this cooperation here is partly the struggle for the physical cooperation with others. Okay, and for the other part, it is a struggle for the spiritual and moral perfection of society as a whole, okay, for the sake of society itself, and as also for the blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is actually the very mission of cooperation, okay, in Islamic perspective. Not only for the worldly mission, but more importantly is for the blessing from Allah. Conflict, on the other hand, okay, is referred to as a state of disagreement or opposition between individual, groups, or entities, typically arising from differences in opinion, interest, value, or needs. Okay, and it can be manifested in various forms. Okay, ranging from mild disagreement to intense dispute. Okay, in which it can occur in many contexts, at the personal relationship, workplaces, communities, okay, international relation. Okay, at the international relations, sometimes it can result to this conflict. Okay, at the international relations, sometimes can resort to war. Okay, in Islam, conflict is recognized as a natural part of human interaction. Why? Because Islam acknowledges that every individual is unique in respect of the way they undergo the process of socialization, and as well as the environmental factor, okay, that influence, okay, their upbringing. Okay, and this uniqueness normally can become the breeding ground of conflicts between individuals, between communities, between society. Yeah? And it is actually a fact of life that we cannot just simply ignore. Islamic teaching provide guidance on how to address and resolve conflict in a manner that aligns with the principle of justice, compassion, and mutual respect. Okay? In Surah Al-Hujurat, ayah 10 to ayah 9, okay? Because the ayah is quite long, so I think I will give you a translation. Okay, in Surah Al-Hujurat, ayah 9, and if two groups of believers fight each other, then make peace between them. But if one of them transgress against the other, then fight against the transgressing group until they are willing to submit to the rule of Allah. If they do so, then make peace between both groups in all fairness and act justly. Surely Allah loves those who uphold justice. Okay? And in addition to how we resolve conflict, okay, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Sahih al-Bukhari, book 43, number 624, okay, as being narrated by Anas, okay, the Prophet said, "Help your brother, whether he is an oppressor or he is an oppressed one." Okay, people ask, "Oh Allah, oh Allah's Prophet, it is all right to help him if he is oppressed. But how should we help him if he is an oppressor?" So the Prophet said, by preventing him from oppressing others. Okay, and this is how Islam teach us how that we can resolve conflict. Help directly, okay, cooperate directly with the oppressed, and we can also cooperate indirectly with this oppressor by preventing him from oppressing others. Now, between conflict and cooperation, okay, there's always a dynamic interplay between the two, because both are actually part of the functioning of any society. Okay. Understanding the dynamic interplay of cooperation, okay, help us to understand or to go on how to shape our human interaction. Okay, we don't live alone. As human beings, we are bound to interact with others. Okay, and being unique creation, okay, we always encounter with other people, and we sometimes may have disagreement with them, and that creates conflict. But conflicts dealing with conflict can result in cooperation. Overdoing cooperation can also result in conflict. So there's always a dynamic interplay between cooperation and conflict. Now, the first form of this dynamic interplay is complementary roles between cooperation and conflict, because both can coexist at the same time. While cooperation builds unity, conflict can drive change and innovation by challenging the status quo. So it came, or both comes at the same time. Okay. Conflict can also be a catalyst, okay, for positive change. Okay. When the group of proletarians, as mentioned by Karl Marx, okay, are trying to improve their life, okay, they work together, okay, in overthrowing capitalist ideologies. So they can, okay, and that was done through revolution, okay, in order to establish a new society called equal society, okay, where society are built, okay, without a individual, a private property. Okay, the property belongs to people. Okay. Cooperation, okay, play the role, okay, as a mediation in resolving conflict. Okay, it is done through effective communication, negotiation, mediation, arbitration. Okay. And these are the cooperative strategies used to manage and resolve conflict. So cooperation, resolve conflict. Conflict, okay, can bring impact to positive change that is towards cooperation. Okay, so it will lead to stronger relationships and system. Okay, sociology is a discipline that along studying it, okay, students are exposed to also explore the theories developed in understanding society. Okay, how society began, okay, how society maintains its existence. Okay, and in sociology we have three meta theories, okay, that we always discuss, okay, in order to trying to understand more about society. Three meta theories are structural functionalist, conflict theories, and symbolic interactionist theories. Okay, in all of these three meta theories, okay, it's either directly discuss about cooperation, indirectly about conflict, or directly about conflict but indirectly also discuss about cooperation. For example, the first theory or meta theory is structural functionalist theory, okay, that views society. Sorry, I forgot to. Okay. Okay, functionalist theory views society as a complex society whose parts work together to promote stability and social order. So here, cooperation is seen as very essential in maintaining the equality and the equilibrium and the balance of society's existence. Okay, here Emil Durkheim, one of the proponents of this theory, okay, introduced the concept of social solidarity and how it can be achieved. Okay. According to Durkheim, humans are inherently egoistic. Okay, and through collective consciousness, through this cooperation, Okay, for example, cooperation towards in norms, beliefs, and values. It forms the moral basis of the society. So collective consciousness through cooperation is therefore the key importance to the society, okay, and become a requisite function, okay, in which without it, the society cannot survive. Okay, in this theory, okay, Durkheim distinguished between mechanical solidarity, okay, and organic solidarity. Okay, mechanical solidarity was an integration in the society that based on cooperation, okay, due to the similarities, okay, of the members. While organic solidarity is also a cooperation that is based on different skill or differences, okay, between members of that society. Okay, normally we refer to as a more complex modern society. Okay. So this is directly about cooperation. Okay, but okay, in this theory also, okay, though it directly discussed about cooperation, it also indirectly discussed about conflict. Okay, collective consciousness, okay, was only being realized when there are conflict. Okay, this theory acknowledged that conflict can serve a positive function by contributing to social change and adaptation. Okay, social integration is a product of conflict between various groups. Okay, let's say in organic solidarity, okay, in which we are practicing it in a modern society. Okay, people are related among others, okay, with the skill that they have, with the different skill that they have. Okay, in which this different skill, okay, can cause conflict, but then it is used as a way of how cooperation works with others. Okay. In building, to build a building, okay, without the different skill in technology and vocational, okay, a building cannot be built. Okay, you must have expertise, okay, in engineering, okay, in architecture, in quantity surveying, in order to build just one building. Okay. At first, there are conflict because there are difference. They are very unique from one to another. But then when they work together, they can build a building. Okay. Furthermore, in the process of social change, society adapt and evolve through conflict and resolution, okay, for all cooperation, okay, within social institution as well as between institutions. Now, the next theory is a conflict theory. Now, conflict theory actually directly, by the name itself, okay, you can see that this theory is all about conflict. Okay, and the society is based on the conflict that occur in history. Okay, the dialectical materialism. In history, humans are always in conflict, in competitions, okay, towards gaining the natural resources. Okay, so in the society, okay, it is always in a state of perpetual conflict due to competition for limited resources. This theory emphasizes the role of power, inequality, and social stratification in generating conflict. Okay. For Karl Marx, he emphasized that this conflict, okay, occur between different social classes, between the people who have, okay, and between the group who have not, okay, because they are in a competition for limited resources, okay, between the bourgeoisie and the proletarians, between the owner of means of production and the workers, okay, of the means of production. Okay. So here, the struggle, the conflict that happens is because of the limited resources. Okay. In other words, we can say it is due to economy. Okay. Conflict perspective also, there is, after Karl Marx, okay, another group of Karl Marx follower led by Max Weber, his students, okay, extend the idea of this conflict in the society that also include the struggle for status, for power, okay, the conflict that happened between people of different religion, different race, okay, that also can also induce conflict in the society. Okay, indirectly, this conflict, if it is resolved properly, can lead to cooperation among people. And sometimes, okay, those who are in conflict, okay, those who are between the group who are in conflict, okay, in each of the group, okay, in order to achieve their resolution, will also cooperate together in either toppling down the other, okay, or to win the case against the other. Okay, so while conflict happened, okay, conflict theory also acknowledged that cooperation can emerge from those who share interests, okay, in seeking social change. In the case of Karl Marx theory of conflict, okay, it showed how, okay, workers work together, okay, and then being guided by Karl Marx, okay, who reminds them, who try to convince them that all their life, okay, they work for the bourgeoisies, they are actually being lied. They have been given false consciousness that they work for them because this is the only job you can do. Okay. So Marx convinced them that although they are the workers, they can also have their own way to change their fate. Okay. And then to revolt against those who oppress them. Okay. He told them that all this while, workers were being isolated from what they do, from their own self, which it will be a very long discussion. So I will limit that it's all about how the oppressor oppress by isolating them from their own self, their own creativity, okay, oppress from socialize, from their own friends, okay. So this need to be stopped. So they cooperate together, okay, through class struggle, okay, where cooperation among members of the working class to challenge and change oppressive structures. Okay, and this cooperation become a strategy to balance power and achieve collective goals. Although at the end of the day, communism did not survive, but change has happened. And the last meta theory is symbolic interactionist theory. Okay, the theory that actually not focusing on cooperation and conflict, it's more on the social realities of and social constructionism. Okay, but so it can be both. Okay, people can decide whether this social realities is to be seen through cooperation or through conflict. Okay, because this theory focuses on the meaning and symbols that individuals have to their social interaction. Okay. Cooperation can arise from shared understanding and communication. Cooperation is facilitated by face-to-face interaction, okay, and the interpretation of symbol. Today, okay, we need to extend the idea of how cooperation can be facilitated even through a digital platform. But interaction still happening. Also, by understanding others' perspective, it can also promote empathetic and cooperative behavior through role taking. Everyone is responsible. Every encountering part is responsible in promoting empathic and cooperative behavior through interaction, and through interpretation of the symbol. Now, when the interpretation of the symbol is indirect, it wrongly perceived, conflict can happen. So another branch of symbolic interactionism is social constructionism, that focus on how social realities are constructed through language and interaction, leading to different perception and potential conflict. How we interact with others, how that symbolic information that we share may not be perceived similar to what we agreed. So conflicts is actually a social construct, how other people construct or interpret the symbol. Realities created through social interaction and shared understanding. But sometimes that understanding is not being perceived correctly by the other part or by the other parties. When disagreement arising from different social construction of reality, then conflict of perception appear. So this is basically how theories developed in an attempt to make us understand what is cooperation and conflict in the society. Now let's see. I will try to discuss first the types, the causes, and the consequences of cooperation. Then we move to a new discussion on conflict from the types, the causes, and the consequences of conflict. There are several types. There are many types of cooperation. Time does not permit me to discuss in detail all these 13 types. So I will just mention to you in brief. Direct cooperation, indirect cooperations, which normally involve people who are working together. Directly working together, or indirectly not working together, maybe from different company, but trust in cooperation between two different companies or two different parties. That formal cooperation is normally a structured and organized collaboration. For example, a partnership between businesses, having this MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, Memorandum of Agreement, MOA. Informal cooperation is more unstructured cooperation. Normally, it is spontaneous collaboration, but based on mutual understanding and goodwill. Like in Malaysia, we have this rukun tetangga, this cooperation among the members of the neighborhood, for monitoring the safety of the neighborhood. And then horizontal cooperation, the cooperation among those who of the same hierarchical level. And vertical cooperation is a collaboration between individuals or group of different hierarchical levels that normally involve a power dynamic. Next is intra-organizational cooperation, is the cooperation within the same organization, among the staff in the company, among the staff in the company, and among the people in the same department or in the same organization. And then inter-organizational cooperations normally is a cooperation between different organizations, like non-government organizations partnering with governments to deliver humanitarian aid, okay, to Gaza, okay, or in many parts of the world. Symbiotic cooperation is a mutual cooperation where different parties benefits from each other. Okay, like here we have this Celcom DG, okay, the communication technology companies collaborating to integrate their product for mutual benefit. So that with this cooperation between DG and Celcom, okay, the two gigantic communication technology companies, okay, work together, cooperate together to expand the connections so that it will be for mutual benefit to the users and to the companies. And then competitive cooperation is a cooperation where parties work together despite being competitors. Okay, normally we can see in political parties, a political group that form alliance. Okay, they are from different parties. Okay, but then they form alliance. Okay, so that why one in that alliance, when they are together, they can work together in competition with other political parties who are not in the alliance. So this is often for mutual benefit in specific areas. Okay. Also in businesses. And then community cooperation. This is within a community to achieve common goal, which is very easy. International cooperations. Okay, this is cooperation between countries or international organization. We have United Nations. We have just now we talk about D8. Okay, we have at South. Okay, these are international cooperation. And finally is the technological cooperations, is a collaboration in the field of technology to develop, to share or improve technological innovations. Okay, sometimes it can be in a form of joint research project between university and technology, the knowledge transfer, okay, project in order to develop new technologies. And if you look at these types of cooperations actually highlight the diverse ways in which either individuals, communities, groups, organizations, countries can work together in achieving common goals and to also address shared challenges together. What are the causes of cooperation? There are many causes of cooperations. I highlight 11 of it, but there are many more. Okay, cooperation can arise from various causes. Okay, but basically it stems from the need or the desire to achieve common goals. Okay, number one, to achieve common goals. Number two, to address shared challenges. How can we encounter the challenges? And number three is for the benefit for all. Okay, I see these are the three important ones, but there are also other costs. Okay, which I can of course briefly share with you. Okay, apart from shared goals and objective, mutual benefit. Okay, and the other one is to share challenges, the external threats or challenges. They are also, the cost can also be to develop social bonds and relationships. Okay. Example, community members collaborating on neighborhood improvement project. Okay. Like modern garden, okay, for the benefit of the whole. And then cultural and social norms. For example, traditional practice of communal farming in rural communities. Okay, so they work together. They value cooperation and collective action, in which it encourages individuals and individuals to work together within a community. Economic incentive Economic incentive can be a cost saving and profit sharing, which can also drive cooperation. For example, companies collaborating on research and development to reduce costs and share technological advancement. Okay. Next one, the next course is for communication and understanding. Okay, having effective communication between groups, okay, through regular meetings and clear communication channels to coordinate their effort. And that can only be done when everyone cooperates. Another cause of cooperation is institutional support. Okay. International organizations such as United Nations, okay, need to foster cooperation between countries, okay, in order to facilitate the need to help the other countries. Every members of the United Nations need to play their role and to cooperate. Cooperation is also needed, okay, for ethical and moral consideration. Okay. For example, a volunteer working together in humanitarian aids and effort, okay, for the sake of ethical and moral belief, okay, to help others and to contribute to common good and motivating more cooperation from others, so that when people see you, okay, when see you how you struggle to help other people who are in need, those who can't help using their power, their deed can also help through donations. Okay, so cooperation among those people who can help physically is important in becoming the role model for those who can also cooperate in other ways. Strategic interests. Another cause for cooperation is for strategic interests, to recognize that cooperation can lead to long-term advantages and stability, and to drive collaborative effort. Okay. Nations, like we have these BRICS, and then we have D8, we have ASEAN. Okay, next year, 2035, Malaysia will be the chairmanship for ASEAN 2025 for another 5 years. Okay, how that these nations, the 8 countries in Asia, in Southeast Asia, form alliances to ensure mutual security and economic growth through cooperation. Okay, and the last one is the psychological factors. Okay, to form a social identity, okay, to possess a sense of belongingness to a group, okay, or to a community. Okay. That's why and the need for social identity cause us to cooperate, okay, in order to maintain group cohesion. Okay. For example, in sports, okay, in sports, in either Olympics, Olympic Games, SEA Games, Asian Games, or badminton games, whatever games, okay, sports team cooperating to achieve victory for their country, for their club, okay, for their state, okay, so that they can have a sense, they can have a very strong sense of belongingness as they are representing their country. Okay. The more they do it, the more they have this feeling of strong social identity, okay, for their country, for their beloved country or state or club. Okay. Now, cooperation is not just simply positive. Okay. Sometimes cooperation can also result to conflict. It can result to be a conflict of interest, conflict of value. Okay. So there are several consequences of cooperation, which I can divide into positive and negative consequences. Okay, so here I list down some of the positive consequences. I'm running out of time. I'm looking at the time. Okay, which I'm not going to explain to you. Okay, I think it is enough for you to see, and you will see what are the positive consequences. If you overdo cooperation, it will lead to conflict. Okay. Now I want to move to the types of conflict. There are 5 types of conflict: interpersonal conflict, intrapersonal conflict, intergroup conflict. Interpersonal is the conflict between individuals due to their differences in opinion. Intrapersonal conflict is the conflict within you. Okay, and normally this conflict is due to your conflicting desires and your conflicting emotion. Okay, the decision that you make within you. Intergroup conflict is the conflict between groups or teams or countries. Okay. Organizational conflict is the hierarchical conflict. The conflict within organization, okay, the dispute due to resource allocation, leadership, or policy disagreement. And finally, this international conflict between countries, okay, disagreement, disputes between countries, okay, involving political, economic, or cultural differences. And the causes of conflict can also be varied, but not as many as cooperation. Okay, the main cause of conflict is resource scarcity, the valued resources. Okay, and then the differing values, okay, in terms of the belief, okay, the cultural norms, the religious values. Okay, it can also cause conflict. Another cause of conflict is communication issues. Okay, the misunderstanding or poor communication that can also lead to disagreement. Now, sometimes it's due to language differences, can also cause conflict. Next one is power dynamic as a cause. Okay, struggles for control, struggle for influence and authority. Okay, in politics as well as in economy, there always exists this conflict of power dynamic. Okay, and finally is the psychological factor, which can also become the cause of conflict, okay, such as stress, emotion, and personality clashes between individual, between groups, between communities, and can also between the leadership of countries. And the consequences of conflict, okay, can also be seen here. Okay, conflict is normally attached to or led to a more negative consequences. Okay, but what we don't realize is that conflict can also result in positive consequences, a positive change that is through for cooperation. Okay, so see here negative consequences: stress and anxiety, decreased productivity, and of course, damaged relationship. But conflict can also lead to another positive change, like the ability to resolve problems, the change and innovation, and the strengthening of relationship. After conflict, people may want to cooperate and strengthen the relationship. Now, if we are in conflict, there are several strategies of doing it. Okay, may it at the micro level, meso level, or macro level. Okay, at least 5 ways of how conflict can be, or 5 strategies of how conflict can be resolved. Number 1 is through negotiation. Okay, so it's basically the way people mutually accepting way of solving their differences. Okay, and this is basically through discussion between parties that are in conflict. Okay, for example, in the East China Sea dispute between China and Japan. Okay. Lots of negotiation were conducted, okay, in order to solve the problem. And then the second one is through mediation. Okay, is where third party helps to facilitate discussion and resolution. Okay, for example, solving it at the micro level. Okay, mediators is used. Okay, or mediators play a role in solving conflict between married couple. Okay, in Islam we call this process as the sulh. Okay, the mediation before you go to the next level, that is to the Court of Justice. Okay, last time in history, the one of the significant history that is treated through mediation is during the confrontation between Indonesia and Malaysia in 1962 until 1965. Okay, the mediation that happened between two countries, which I'm not going to explore further. Okay, next is arbitration. Okay, it is basically a third party makes a binding decision to resolve the conflict. Okay, at the micro levels, when the husband refused to give the talak, okay, and the wife, okay, see that she is being oppressed, she is being abused, so she appealed the court to decide, okay, to give fasakh, okay, this decision. So the court is the arbitrators, a third party that makes a binding decision to resolve the conflict. Okay, because when the dispute happen between two parties, okay, they agree to have a neutral person, okay, that to settle their dispute based on the agreed upon norms and rules. Collaboration. Collaboration is when both parties work together to find a win-win solution to satisfy everyone's needs and then resolve conflict. And the last one is through compromise, okay, where both party or each party give up something to reach a mutually acceptable solution. Okay. Now, by understanding conflict and its dynamic, it is crucial for effectively managing and resolving dispute, okay, from micro into the larger social context. Okay. No, I don't have time, but should I? Just to give you some idea about the establishment of Islamic State in Medina, which was based, or which was built based on cooperation between Ansar and Muhajirun, and then between people who lives in Medina at that time. Okay. Now the cooperation has its significant impact, okay, from Hijrah, okay, because from there, after Hijrah, there is a sense of strong cooperation between people, starting with the building of mosques. Okay. Before the Prophet even arrived to the center of Medina, okay, he arrived in a place, a neglected land, where he asked the Muhajirin and the Ansar to build a mosque, a very simple mosque. And they did it in cooperation together. Okay. And the mosque become a place where everything is done there. Right from the praying place to the decision to be made for the benefit of all people in Medina. And then the next thing that the Prophet did to fraternize the Muhajirin and the Ansar under the concept of mu'akhad, or brotherhood. Okay. This is also, okay, to develop a sense of integration and cooperation between the group of Ansar, okay, and the group of Muhajirun. Ansars were tested, okay, to help people who have nothing with them at that time. Okay, and this is actually a test for them, a challenge for our corporations. Once it is done, okay, the brotherhood is strengthened. The next thing that the Prophet did is to develop an Islamic alliance agreement. This one is not only between Ansar and Muhajirin, but also between those people and the Jewish people. Okay, this is called as Mithaq al-Madinah. And everything is done with the cooperation of everyone who lives in Medina at that time. Okay, and no, because before the coming of the Prophet, okay, there a continuous conflict happened between the people who live in Yathrib at that time, the old name of Medina. Okay, and this conflict triggered those group of people from Yathrib who went for pilgrimage to Mecca to find the Prophet on how to resolve the issue of this conflict that they have been facing in their life. Okay, and these are the three things that the Prophet did in order to resolve the issue of conflict that happened in Medina. So as a conclusion, the intricate dance of cooperation and conflict forms the backbone of human society. Okay? It becomes a driving progress and challenging our resilience. Both cooperation and conflict are essential elements of the human experience and the human interaction, okay? Because it shapes the way we communicate with others. It shapes the way we influence, okay, our own development. Okay? And then it also shapes the way we drive societal progress. So by embracing the positive aspect of both, we can build a world that can value unity and diversity. We can understand people, whether they are similar or they are different from us. We can live in harmony and in progress. Okay? So this complexity can be easily understood. Okay? And having a balanced collective well-being for us today and in the future. Okay, so that's me. I still exceed the 45 minutes, the 40 minutes.
Yeah, Doctor. Thank you very much. Doctor, we have many questions here, but you can pick up one or two only, Doctor, because we have passed the time already.
Okay, let me see.
Sorry.
Chat, yeah, all right. I don't see
in the chat box, Doctor.
What about husband and wife cooperation? They don't live together if they do not cooperate. The survival of marriage should be based on cooperation. If you are to cooperations, cooperation can also does not mean that you have an equal function. Cooperation here between husband and wife is when you have a complementary function that you have between you and your husband. You don't do their jobs, they don't do their job, but you work together. The best cooperation is the one showed by the end. Okay. It's already been mentioned in Surah Al-Nahl. Okay. There is even a surah on ends, okay, in Quran, okay, that show how the cooperations can work, okay, in groups, in social group, if we are to work together. Okay. But for ends, it's actually the cooperation being shown by ends is the cooperation based on similarities, that it fulfill the integration between ends. Because of their similarity, they work together. But we see today's life or today's world is a world that is based on a more complex, a more unique differences between people. None of us, or most of us, not most of us, are in our own specialization, which is partly the work of the Western. Okay, we are being specialized. If you look at our Muslim scholars, Avicenna, for example, Ibn Khaldun. Okay, Ibn Khaldun is a politician as well as a mufti as well. They can actually uphold many functions, but not the Western perspective. Okay, it always to be a discipline. Okay, only one discipline that you should specialize. Okay. So in the academic world today, okay, we are going towards the de-Westernization of knowledge. Okay, we can't just simply. This actually create more complications, more differences, okay, and more complexity of modern life. Yes, Prof. Western power cooperate with each other in genocide against Palestine. Okay. We know it from the very beginning, okay, what they are doing. Okay. The agreement between, it's not only about the Westerns, okay, it's actually the Jewish, okay, and the Christians who actually want to have a pact against Islam is actually had been told to us, okay, right from the beginning, okay, that until the Yawm al-Akhirah, they will always want to destroy us, okay, and Palestine is the place, okay, because in the beginning, okay, Palestine is a country, okay, but then it was being given some of it to the Jewish people to come and stay, okay? And that was the beginning in 1948, when it was the beginning where they try to widen their territories illegally, okay. The chance that they were given, okay, was actually being planned, not now, but for a very long time ago, okay, since the end of the Osmani Caliphate, okay, the World War I, they have started to think, okay, about making this place, this country, as part of the Jewish country. This is not something new. The occupation have been done not only now, but it was since before, since a century ago. I think that's it.
Thank you very much, Doctor, for your presentation, and very interesting. And hopefully all the participants can grab all the benefits. And we already go to the end of this today class. And inshallah, we hope we can see all the participants and that's again in the next session, inshallah. I think that doesn't have any more question. We can end our class today with Tasbih Kifara and Surah Al-Asr. Subhanallah wa bihamdih.